Hi, it's Seamstress Sarah. In today's video I will be showing you how to extend your trouser pockets so that you can actually fit things inside them. A couple of weeks ago my phone ended up in the sea. It didn't survive the trip and has had to be replaced. Now my old phone was an iPhone SE which just about fit into my jeans pockets. But my replacement phone, which is an iPhone 7, sticks way out of the top of my pocket and it's really annoying. When I mentioned this to a friend and said how annoying it was that my phone didn't even fit inside my pocket, his response was that he thought it was a fashion thing for women to have their phones sticking out of their pockets. So it's not just my pockets that are too small, everybody's pockets are too small. So here's a video on how to extend your trouser pockets so you can actually fit your phone and anything else you need inside them. If you take your jeans off and lie them out flat and then put the phone into the pocket, then you can see how much of the phone sticks out of the top of the pocket. Take a measurement, see how much your phone is sticking out of the top of your pocket, and then add about ½ centimetre onto that measurement, and that is going to be the amount that we need to extend our pocket by. Turn the jeans inside out and have a look at the pocket that is already in place. This stitch line here, this is just where the pocket facing is sewn on to the actual pocket bag. That's not the bit that you need to measure from. We'll use the measurement that we took from the front of the pocket where we measured how much the phone was sticking out. So for the sake of argument, I'm going to say that this phone sticks out 6½ centimetres, so we're going to make a 7 centimetre extension to the pocket. The first thing we need to do is open up this seam at the bottom of the pocket because this will become the seam allowance we use to join our extension onto the bottom. Down here at the bottom, the seam allowance of the pocket actually extends into the side seam of the trousers, and we can't get this to lay out flat unless we just put a little snip in here to separate it from the side seam of the trousers so that we can open the seam up and get it to lie flat. The next thing we need to do is measure how wide the pocket is. Here we've got a pocket which is 18½ centimetres across and it's just folded on this side, so we're looking for a total measurement 2 times 18½. We also need to remember that we'll add a seam allowance on to either side of that measurement. You can see it's a bit of a rough edge. I'm going to tidy that up, but first I will use this stuff, Fray Stop. It stops the fabric from fraying. So I'm just going to draw a line across the front and the back of the pocket in Fray Stop right at the edge, and then once it's dry I can then trim these frayed sections off. This is the fabric that I'm going to use to make my pocket extension. It's cotton, so it's the same as the fabric that the pocket bag is already made from. It's been pre-washed, so I know it won't shrink when these jeans go into the wash next. I just need to draw out the shape and the size of my pocket extension. If we just draw a straight line across the top that we know needs to be 37 centimetres across to make the total width of our pocket bag, we'll give ourselves 1½ centimetre seam allowance at the top to join it onto the existing pocket. Then our 7 centimetres extension, and then 1½ centimetre seam allowance at the bottom. And then on either side we'll also need to add a seam allowance. Once we've drawn all that in, I'm going to use Fray Stop and I'll just draw that all the way around just on the inside of my cut line, and then leave it to dry before I cut the fabric out. So this is the pocket with the seam allowance opened up. The part of the pocket which was closed up at the bottom has now been opened. Then I need to start to pin my pocket extension onto the original pocket. So if I pin all the way around, and then I will need to join up the bottom edge and the side to make our new extended pocket bag. I'm just using a straight stitch on the sewing machine to join the pocket extension onto the original pocket bag, going all the way around on that join seam, and that's the pocket extension attached. And then I need to close up the bottom edge and down the side. It's not particularly tidy, so what I will do is I'm just going to turn these seam allowances in on themselves and run a top stitch along them to make sure that the edges stay nice and tidy and don't fray over time. The join seam here is a bit untidy, so I'll trim back one layer and fold it back on itself, and then I can either do a top stitch or just a slip stitch around this edge to make it lie nice and flat. Once all your seams have been tidied up, then it's ready to test. Now I noticed with this pocket that because the original pocket bag was so wide, once the extension's been added, there's actually enough space for the phone to go down into my pocket and then lie sideways. So use a French curve, or I've got one of these flexible rulers. Put the phone on the pocket so you can see how wide you need the pocket bag to be at the bottom for the phone to sit in comfortably, and then just use the flexible curve to draw on the curve and sew that line. This stitched line will be enough to stop the phone from falling sideways and hold it more upright in your pocket. Let's try them back on. So this side has still got the original pocket, and you can see if I put the phone in, it still sticks out a mile at the top. The other side is the pocket with the extension in, and the phone goes in, and that's it, tidy, hidden. It's not going to fall out if I bend over. My phone is where it's supposed to be, in a pocket that is actually a usable size. So that is a good job.